on terror. I would say American foreign policy today, I would just typify it as being very honest, because America wants to be good, to be found to be good. There's a lot of anti-Americanism going on in the world. The image of America as the remaining superpower since 1989 is one of, what are they going to do with this absolute power corrupt, so what are they going to do with it? Are we going to be punished, and so on and so forth. But personally, and then again from an intellectually pure way, it's not a war on terror. It's a war on Islam. And I think that is why people like bin Laden are winning. Because if you go down to Afghanistan and you get the only people who say and who can really argue it consistently that they're leading a pure Islamic life in the example of the Prophet are destroyed, and you establish a democracy, you attempt to establish a democracy, and you do that in Iraq, and you unfold a plan to do that in the rest of the Islamic world, then the argument that this is opposed to everything Islamic, that holds true. And so the more consistent you are, the more, the more support you win. So I would not call it the war on terror.
But you would call it the war on Islam. You want to put a flame under the rhetoric and make it even hotter.
It's not a question of flame. The United States was attacked on the 11th of September in the name of Islam. They tried to destroy the White House, destroyed the economic symbol of the United States, destroyed part of the Pentagon, and have vowed to destroy and are prepared to go on doing this in the name of their faith, even when they themselves die.
Right.
With that kind of conviction, you have to sit down and ask yourselves, what on earth is it that they want? Now, the list of arguments from the 11th of September was this poverty, the American foreign policy, and so on. And we see up to the Glasgow bus that this just doesn't add up. So at one point, you have to understand that there is conviction behind this. So if you treat this in the same way as, say, Catholic aggression in the 15th century was treated, Nazism, communism, that this is ideology motivated, it's belief motivated, then you try and understand why. Why are they winning hearts and minds? What is wrong? What is it that they're giving? What is it that we're not giving? Then the situation is going to look different. I'm not saying that we should say it's the war on Islam. But from a genuine point of view, I have no idea what else to call it. And it wasn't, and I think the thing that we should emphasize again and again is to say it isn't a war that was declared on Islam, but it is a declaration of war in the name of Islam on civil society and all the freedoms that we believe in. And there are types like bin Laden who are willing to go all the way. But then there is the Saudi royal family, the Saudi philanthropists, who every day are founding new madrasas where they're teaching people to hate, and people are being indoctrinated to go and kill themselves in the name of Islam. Iran wants to get that bomb to destroy Israel in the name of Islam. That's the argument. When the Soviet Union was doing that, the ideological argument was communism, and everybody was told communism is bad, and a strategic plan was set out to destroy and defeat communism. And nothing of the sort is happening today. Everybody is just struggling to say that it's just another religion. It's not another religion. You can disagree with me, and I really welcome disagreement. And I hope I'm wrong. But if you ask me, have I reached any other conclusion? I haven't.
Can you give us any kind of insight into the pull of this radical form of the religion for? I mean, you just mentioned the Glasgow bombers. I mean, these guys were doctors, they were well-educated, intelligent, prosperous, respected members of the community, not poor, ignorant, alienated people. I think it's something that non-Muslim people, Westerners, just find incredibly hard to grasp. What is the pull? What is the attraction for people of that kind?
I don't know the real answer. I'm not a sociologist, a psychologist. I don't understand a lot of what
So it seems as strange to you as it does to me.
The only thing that I can appeal back to is if you from 0 to 18, 19, 20 were brought up that this is the truth. We are on earth and it's temporary. Then there's the hereafter. This is what you're supposed to do. Even when you become a doctor, even when you become whatever you become, when you're confronted with the challenges of life and you can't, for some reason, deal with them, you will not, or you do as most people, go into therapy, take pills, become whatever, and all that doesn't work. And then here is this, people tend to fall back on what their upbringing was, what were you taught at home. What is your religion? What is your faith? What is your identity? And what the jihadis are selling is this. Life on earth is just a test. It's temporary, and that adds up. And then in the name of belief, you can will yourself, and we've seen this in the past. So there's no getting around it. And I think the sooner we understand the psychology of sects. We understand the charisma of sects. We have, if you talk to psychological experts, they'll tell you all about these deprogramming facilities that they have. But we don't apply it to Muslims because on the one hand, to radical Muslims, not to all Muslims, to extreme radical Muslims, because on the one hand, we see Islam as a religion that is respectable and has the same characteristics as what Christianity and Judaism have become today, as opposed to what they were once upon a time. And on the other hand, these people are minorities, and so we think it's comforting for them to go back to whatever it is that they believed in. And so there's this disconnect, and I think, and this is only part of the answer.
Okay. I think we have another question. So,
well, let me be a male Muslim congratulating you on your courage and expressing admiration for some of the things that you say and stand for, and your right to have the opinions that you do. But I have 3 interrelated questions. The first is that the 4 of the 5 most populous Muslim concentrations or countries are democracies: Indonesia, India, Bangladesh, and Turkey. Pakistan is the exception there. Similarly, many of the problems that we are seeing in Europe today, for example, you spoke about England and the headscarves and the niqabs, but 20 years ago, there were a large number of Muslims in England, and none of them were in niqabs and hijab. So to what extent is your critique of Islam very ethnocentric and Arab-African Islam, which is far harsher? For example, genital mutilation has never been practiced in any country east of Djibouti, to my knowledge. Certainly not in India, certainly not in Pakistan, certainly not in Indonesia or Turkey for female genital mutilation. So to what extent is a specific regional focus, and then to what extent is the Saudi royal family and its proselytizing of its version of Wahhabism responsible for a more radical version among Muslims, say, for example, in England, etc.? And so in that context, why is it so difficult for you to relate to those of us who are Muslims and argue that our faith has been hijacked by a minority and that we need to confront the minority rather than just reject completely the whole body of the faith and 1400 years of how that faith has been practiced at different times in different places?
The problem is they are not a minority. The problem is actually the other way around. If you look at those groups of Muslims, those individual Muslims who are world-oriented, who have found some balance between modernity, civil society, living under secular rule or living or aspiring to that, and what we have now come to call the radicals, a term, by the way, that does not exist in the Muslim world. If you compare that in numbers, what you will see, and that is the frightening thing, is that those truly liberal Muslims are seen to be freaks in the Muslim world. Among the 1.5 billion, they are a minority. You can list them. There are a group of people called the Ismailis with Aga Khan. So they've modified the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. There are the Sufis, there are the Ahmadiyyas, there are the Baha'is. They're all minorities. They have difficulty getting into Mecca. There seemed